we don't seem to follow the law very often these days, John, for one thing. And, you know, there were special circumstances this time because of the Wuhan and because of so much mail-in voting and because of the extensions granted by fiat, by state attorneys general and by secretaries of state and in some cases by governor. Oh, you know, you don't have the tally by midnight. That's okay. We're going to count for 3 more days. And this is, at least elements of this certainly are part of the challenge being launched by the president and by now, I believe, 19 states in these United States of America, that these elected officials, in some cases appointed officials, cannot just by fiat go around the legislature and change election law. And one of those, and I'm not sure, you know, how solid they, and you're right, it was a 9-0 ruling in the Supreme Court, Foster versus Love, 1997, and it did address those issues. But, you know, this year, John, everything is different because of the Wuhan Red Death and because the mail-in ballots and because you get to vote up till Election Day and then mail them in, so you've got to delay the vote and and that is doubtless part of the broader filing that that is, you know, still in progress, I guess, that the Supreme Court, as far as I know, I haven't looked in the last few minutes, that the Supreme Court has not announced one way or the other whether they're going to take up this case. But I certainly hope that they do. And I got to say also, if this ruling from this case, you know, nothing after midnight, Foster v. Love, well, then the Democrats are sunk. I mean, they'd just be, you know, you sunk my battleship. Because if nothing after midnight can be counted, and again, that was waived and it was modified and the rules were changed and they didn't go through the legislatures in multiple instances in order to change election law, which, according to many states, state attorneys general, violates the law and the Constitution, just by the way. That certainly is a big part of what the Supreme Court, you know, part of the rule changes. That is what the Supreme Court is being asked to look at. Whether they look at it or not remains to be seen. John, thank you, though. And that is, you know, and I just don't know, because you get into the weeds in the story, in the case. And what was clear then in 1997, I promise you, is no longer clear in 2020. Oh, midnight on Election Day. Well, that was kind of soft. So, you know, the Supreme Court, having ruled 9-0 on that in 1997, may be asked to look at that and say, you know, when did that cease to be the law of the land? The law of the land. When did that cease to be operable? Because certainly, if that were the case this year, then Joe Biden lost the election in a landslide. At midnight on Election Day, Joe Biden had lost the land. He had lost in a landslide in Pennsylvania. He had lost in Georgia. And then the Democrats closed the doors and covered the windows and started counting and having people coming in late at night with trucks and ballots and some of them only filled out for president and all of that good stuff. I tell you, John, it's anybody's guess at this point when it comes to the law in the United States of America, particularly having to do with elections. Let's go to Bo calling from Syracuse, New York. Bo, you're on the Chris Plante Show. Bo in Syracuse, New York. Is Bo there?
Yeah, you're brilliant and hilarious.
Hey, Bo. Thank you. You're brilliant and hilarious.
Oh, thank you. I just have a quick comment. It's kind of parroting your prior caller, Robert, earlier. And I agree with him 100%. We know that CNN that doesn't report on anything is going to be damaging to the Biden family. So I believe that they're only reporting on this now, just to bring it out into the open so that they can clear Biden's name before January 20th. Pretty sure that's what they're doing. But you did bring up a good point that they may be sabotaging Joe Biden just to bring Camel in there, a.k.a. Kamala, the camel hump.
Right, yeah. Yeah, our news media is not trustworthy, is it, Bo?
No, not at all. I think the average American now knows this. I mean, if their eyes haven't been open, they should be within this last 4 years. It's been ridiculous.
Yeah.
They can't even watch CNN or else I'm going to need some of those super beets to lower my blood pressure a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. The chews with the French grapeseed extract to make it even better, and it does. Yeah, and you're right. You can't watch. See, I mean, I do, but I have to. It's my job, and I watch them as little as possible. And I have this DVR so I can zip through stuff and see what they're not covering and what they are covering and stuff. But yeah, CNN is just a Democrat. It is you know, an engorged appendage of the body politic of the Democrat Party, if you will. They are just not a news organization. They used to be the most trusted name in news. Now they're a joke. They're just, and not a funny one either. Terrible, horrible joke. Bo, thank you very much. Have an excellent, excellent day. And a weekend. We have the weekend upon us, too. And Syracuse, New York. I might be getting some snow up there, I think. You know, NPR, National Panhandler Radio, the suckling on the taxpayer teat. They tweeted out when the Beau Biden story broke in the New York Post, the editor, the chief editor, senior editor for NPR, put out a tweet saying, because people were saying, well, why haven't you covered the story about Hunter Biden that's in the New York Post? And the head of NPR, one of their chieftains, tweeted out, and here's a quote, why haven't you seen any stories from NPR about the New York Post Hunter Biden story? They put this tweet out here. Read more in this week's newsletter. And they wrote, we don't want to waste our time on stories that are not really stories. And we don't want to waste the listeners' or readers' time on stories that are just pure distractions. That's it. That's it. And that's NPR. And they get $500 million a year from the taxpayer, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting does. And why Republicans do not introduce legislation to end funding for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which is nothing but a vast and deep network of hundreds and hundreds of radio stations and television stations across the country, all dedicated to the proposition of doing left-wing propaganda in all of its various forms. There is not a conservative program or broadcast to be found. Very, very rare instances you will find a documentary that shows up on PBS that was produced by somebody who's not a lefty. That's it. NPR, National Panhandler Radio, just left-wing propaganda from start to finish. The PBS stations, I think we have 5 PBS stations in Washington, D.C. We have, and here's a trick to you have no idea how many PBS stations there are. In Washington, D.C., I think there may be like 7 of them. Television stations. They're like, no, they're not all on your cable. If you have an antenna, a roof antenna, look at all the PBS stations on your roof antenna. WETA has like WETA 1, WETA 2, it's like the BBC. WETA 3, WETA 4, they got WETA for kids, WETA, the BBC WETA, they've got all and they're all broadcasting over the airwaves. They all have staff and crew and offices, and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting gets $500 million taxpayer dollars a year, just like Planned Parenthood. But they and it's, you know, some Republican needs to put an end to this stuff because it's absolutely insane. So NPR, they put out this thing saying we don't want to waste your time, and we're, you know, and it's a distraction and it's not a real story. They're lying, and they're lazy, and they're stupid, and they're dishonest, but they're lying. And then guess what they put out yesterday? President-elect Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, says he was recently informed that he is under federal investigation over a tax matter. It's been going on for 2 years. They continue to lie for the party because they lie all the time. Hunter Biden under federal investigation for tax matter. And then they don't even scratch the surface. So if you scratch the surface, you understand quite rapidly that the IRS investigates tax matters, not U.S. attorneys and grand juries and seizing laptops and the FBI in multiple states. This is about an international crime ring called the Biden family with their Chinese ties and the 2.8 carat diamond, and it's also about the $83,300 a month no-show job with a Ukrainian gas and oil company. I'm an oil and gas man.